Hello and welcome to the Growing in Business interview series. I'm your host, Fleming Johnson, and today I'm joined by Anthony O'Brien, who is managing partner at Cape Fear Capital Group. Tony, thank you so much for joining us. Would you like to kick us off with a brief background of who you are and what you do?
Certainly, and thank you for having me, by the way. This is a very nice opportunity. So my career started after college. I went to Michigan State University, where I got a degree in economics and business administration. Uh, when I realized my professional hockey career was not going to go as planned, I positioned with Beige Halsey Stewart Shields, which later became Prudential Beige. I became a stockbroker and joined that position in the Detroit, Michigan office. And I remained there for a period of about 4 years. I rose to the rank of senior vice president and the head of institutional sales on the debt side. In 1988, I relocated to San Francisco, California, and started a hedge fund, which I named Spinnaker Partners, becoming a member of all the major exchanges. And for the next 19 years, I was a equity trader and options trader in my hedge fund and ran a very successful operation. At one point, we moved the fund to Boston, Massachusetts, where I ended up living for the last couple of years until we sold the fund. And I unwound my positions. After that, I became a member of the NYMEX, which is a New York exchange for commodity products, primarily crude oil, natural gas, crack spreads, all the energy products. And I traded there as a trader. I worked there as a trader and stayed involved for several years until I was brought into a firm called Glacial Energy, where I became the head of sales and ended up hiring about 400 salesmen in 16 states. We were selling commercial natural gas and electricity to commercial customers in the deregulated markets. I did that all through the 2018, and I left the firm when I was offered a similar position with a company out of Toronto to head up their startup in the United States called SFE and FE Energy. And I did the same thing for them, starting the company, building it to 180 salesmen in about 6 different states, and ran that until my position was then taken over by 3 other people so I could move on, which I did, and started a real estate lending company called Real Estate Lender, and rose to be one of the top 10 lending companies in the United States. I actually owned the name realestatelender.com, and we sold, provided capital for commercial construction. We provided capital for acquisition. We provided capital for mortgages, and we did that in 45 different states. And I ran that business successfully until COVID came into being, and I was offered, a company came forward to buy me out, and I sold the company to them and joined a company called Ashling Development, where I was the chief financial officer, running all of their capital needs that they had in the various construction projects that we are running. And I did that for quite a while. And after I decided to leave there because they were New Jersey based and I wasn't interested in moving to New Jersey, I founded Cape Fear Capital Group, where I've been ever since. And that's the long and short of it.
What inspired you to start your own business, and what was that initial spark that kind of led you to take the entrepreneurial leap?
But that's a interesting question you asked me, and there was it was all about money. So while I was at Bates Halsey Stewart Shields, later becoming Prudential Bates Securities, I rose to the rank. Within 4 short years, I became the senior vice president in charge of the institutional desk in Detroit, which was a wonderful position to have. My boss was Stan Klimzak. He was a great guy. We had George Ball, who is now running the company and became a very good friend of mine. And I turned a once very dismal operation in Detroit into a very successful institutional desk. So at the end of my 4th year, it was time to talk about money. And my boss came in from Chicago, Stan came in, and they made me a financial offer package, which I felt to be not enough money. And I came back with my own number, and my boss was pretty shocked by that, the amount I was asking for, and reminded me that even George Ball didn't make that much money. And my comment was, well, George Ball didn't make $50 million for the company, and I did. So he took it back to the board, and the board rejected my offer and did make a very nice offer to me, but it wasn't the number that I had asked for, and I tendered my resignation, which they were shocked about. And when they said, "What are you going to do?" I came back and said, "I'm going to move to San Francisco, and I'm going to start a hedge fund." So I sold my home, got in my car, had a moving company grab all my things, and I moved. Having never been there, I moved to San Francisco because that's where obviously there was a lot of tech going on and there was a lot of capital, but also the Pacific Stock Exchange was in San Francisco, and I wanted to become a member of it to start my fund. So that's how I took the leap from being gainfully employed to being gainfully unemployed with a vision and a game plan. And I went for it. I felt I was young enough that if I fell on my nose, I would still be able to come back to the industry. But I was successful, and things moved on from there.
So tell me, what are some misconceptions about running a business, and how did you address them?
A lot of misconceptions are people think it's going to happen quicker than it does. People think that other investors or other parties are going to care, and they don't. They overthink the opportunity and think that they have to have a perfect game plan before they can enact it. And I can tell you, I had no game plan. My game plan was to become a member of the exchange and go out and raise money, which I did. I raised $1 billion over a couple of years, but the game plan based on performance and action. And I had decided that that's what I was going to do. So I didn't start with the most perfect plan, but I started with the most perfect vision, and I enacted my vision. A lot of people seem to think that everything has to be perfect before they can take the first step. And the smarter move is to start taking your steps and build your model as you're walking forward. And that's the way I did it. So there's no such thing as perfection. There's no such thing as the perfect time to have happen. Building a business is like having a child. You're married, and all of a sudden your wife comes and says, "Hey, I'm pregnant." It was unplanned. Business is the same way. Most things that happen in a business are unplanned. And you learned, if you're quick enough and you don't get yourself into a tizzy over problems, you learn to deal with those problems, and you learn to push the company forward.
So in all that dynamic, it sounds like you're very busy. One of the things that we hear a lot of talk about is work-life balance. So tell me, how do you maintain a work-life balance as a business owner? Do you have any personal rituals or habits that keep you motivated and focused?
Absolutely. Number one, I work out every day. I was a CrossFit world champion. I played tournament golf. So every day at 4:10 p.m., I walk out of my office and I go and work out at the gym. I belong to a great group. I work out every day. So regardless of what I'm doing in my office, I stand up and leave my office. And I spend time in the gym and I work out. When I come back from my workout, I'll clean up any open issues that exist. But by 6 p.m. at night, there's no more work. I'll take an odd call if it's important, but for the most part, Madison and I will cook dinner together, which we do religiously every night, or we'll go out together every night. My weekends are reserved for golf, tournament golf, time with Madison, walking the dog, doing all the things that we do. But I don't allow work to interfere with my personal time or my family time. On the other hand, when I'm working, I get up every morning at 7 a.m. I have 2 cups of coffee. I'm very strict at the amount of time, and I'm on the job at 8 a.m. And I'm in my office and I'm working and I'm doing the necessary things I have to do. And my personal life does not interfere with my business life at that time until 4:10 p.m. And I do that Monday through Friday. Saturday and Sunday is reserved for family and sports, whatever we want to do, vacation or weekends. We like to go away a lot. Like this Thursday, we're leaving for Myrtle Beach, and we're going to be in Myrtle Beach for 4 days. I'll work in Myrtle Beach Friday morning, but we'll spend the weekend at the ocean. So it's you can't work 20 hours a day and think you're going to be successful, because you're not. You're going to eventually resent what you do. Your wife or your spouse is going to leave you, and your friends are going to forget who you are. So, and you're going to become very unhealthy. So, I learned a long time ago. I don't ever work longer than, and I schedule my workouts just for that reason. And I have to stand up and walk out. I'm very diligent with my workouts as I am with my work, and that's how I balance my life. It's, I don't believe working 20 hours a day is going to be successful. I believe focused for X number of hours a day will make you successful, as long as you implement your plan every day and try to take 1 or 2 steps forward every day.
In a constantly evolving business landscape, how do you stay adaptable and open to change? Are there any specific strategies that you use to remain innovative?
Well, there are. For instance, I got very involved in Bitcoin and crypto products a couple of years ago. When I was a young man, little boy, I'd say I was 12 years old. I grew up in Chicago, and my mom asked me what I wanted for my birthday. And I told her I wanted a subscription to the Chicago Tribune, which was the Chicago daily newspaper. And she got it for me. And every morning my newspaper got delivered to our apartment. And in that newspaper, I noticed a couple of things. Number one, there's a business section. Number two, there's a sports section. There's a world news section. And then there's the front page. That's a newspaper. Any newspaper you look at, you're going to see those sections. Well, those sections must be very important because they have their own sections, right? Sports is not buried on page 13 and business is not buried on page 8. They have their own sections. So what I do is I read business news every morning over breakfast. I pay attention to the changing landscape. I do not pay any attention to politics. I don't pay attention to any social media other than a couple of sites that gives me very quick headlines. And I primarily read headlines. If the headline is of value or of interest, I pay attention to it. If it's not relevant to me or my life, I don't have the slightest interest in it. So I stay focused on the fields that I'm working in. I connect myself through a product like LinkedIn. I connect myself with like people of the same ilk as I am, so I can follow their impressions and their thoughts. And I don't respond to anybody. I don't belong to Twitter, don't belong to any of the social locations that people can just randomly put points of their own opinion out. I really don't care about other people's opinions. I only care about factual information that's being presented, and I try to act accordingly.
Give us a glimpse now into your future plans and goals for your business. What do you envision for the next chapter of your entrepreneurial journey?
So I'm a big believer in crypto. I'm a big believer that the United States is bankrupt, and I'm a big believer that most of the world is bankrupt. So there's always going to be money and there's always going to be opportunity. So you've got to always find places that will provide a liquidity basis for one's person, and also something that's going to have the capability of the upside. I think Bitcoin is one of those products. So I started a crypto hedge fund called Navara. We're very active on a daily basis, buying and selling Bitcoin and USDT. And I see myself spending time there. I also believe that with the Fed lowering interest rates recently, and with the change of a presidency, I believe that real estate is once again going to become a viable play. Although I don't see business buildings. I do think multifamily and commercial space that has very specific use, for instance, medical and things like that. So I'm looking once again at the real estate markets. So, I'm always looking for and finding pockets of opportunity. And when I find them, I try to exploit them as best I can until I believe that those areas have run their gamut, as I did in real estate lending and the energy side. That's pretty much what I do. So right now, for the next few years, I believe that the crypto space is going to be on point. And you can see that companies like BlackRock and Fidelity, major companies, are becoming involved in it. And when those behemoths start stepping into that space, you better be in that space, because that's where the money's going.
Now, what advice would you offer to aspiring entrepreneurs who are, say, either just starting their journey or those who are facing challenges in their businesses?
Well, they have to tell themselves the following. Number one, everyone has challenges. You can look at the most successful businesses, and you can look at the businesses who have failed. Everyone faces challenges. So don't think that you're the Lone Ranger or you're somebody unique. You're not. Everybody has issues. It's a tough world, and business is a tough place to do business. So just accept it. Try to understand why you're having a problem, and fix the problem. And continue to push on. If you have a dream, go exercise the dream. Don't sit and plan and plan and plan. Go exercise your dream. See if you can do it on a small scale. When I started real estate lender, I started with $100. I had plenty of money, but I literally put $100 in it. I put money in it to buy the name. I created a website, and that's how I started the company. And I grew it to where we were doing about $50 million a month in loans. So it doesn't take a lot of money to start your dream. What it takes is initiative, desire, passion, and love. If you love what you're doing, you don't have a job, you have a career. If you hate what you're doing, you've got a job. And working for somebody has never made you rich. What makes individuals rich is when they enact their own dream and they go after it.
Tony, thank you so much for your time today. It's been great meeting with you and learning more about your entrepreneurial journey.
I enjoyed it, and I'm sure that your listeners will gain a lot of insight and value from what you're putting together, and I'm glad that you reached out to me.
Okay. And to everyone watching, I look forward to seeing you in our next episode.